A Charlie Brown Christmas by Charles M. Schulz. Adapted by Tina Gallo. Illustrated by Scott Geralds. Narrated by Shante Ramos. It's the most magical time of the year. Christmas is coming. The air is crisp and cold, children are ice skating, and the sound of Christmas carols fills the air. Everyone is in the holiday spirit. Well, almost everyone. I think there must be something wrong with me, Charlie Brown says. Christmas is coming, but I'm not happy. I like getting presents, sending cards, decorating trees, and all that, but I always end up feeling sad. Charlie Brown, you're the only person I know who can take a wonderful season like Christmas and turn it into a problem, Linus says. Maybe Lucy's right. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest. Charlie Brown decides to talk to Lucy. She gives really good advice, and it only costs 5 cents. I just don't understand Christmas, Charlie Brown tells her. Instead of feeling happy, I feel sort of let down. You need to get involved in a real Christmas project, Lucy advises. How would you like to be the director of our Christmas play? Me? Director? Charlie Brown is surprised at the suggestion. He knows nothing about directing, but it sounds exciting. He agrees to meet Lucy at the school auditorium. On his way to the auditorium, Charlie Brown spots his dog, Snoopy, carrying a box of Christmas ornaments and lights. He watches as Snoopy carefully decorates his doghouse. Snoopy has entered a contest to win money for the best neighborhood Christmas lights and display. My own dog has gone commercial, Charlie Brown groans. I can't stand it. Next, Charlie Brown is stopped by his sister Sally. Will you help me write a letter to Santa Claus, Big Brother? Sally asks. Charlie Brown begins to write down everything Sally says. Dear Santa Claus, Sally starts. How have you been? I have been extra good this year, so I have a long list of presents. But you can make it easy on yourself. Just send money. How about 10s and 20s? Charlie Brown sighs. Oh, good grief. When Charlie Brown finally arrives at the auditorium, the cast is waiting for him. Okay, let's have quiet, he announces. Places, everybody. Action! But no one listens to him. Schroeder starts playing his piano, and everyone starts dancing. Nobody cares that Charlie Brown is directing. Nobody cares about the play. They just want to dance. Charlie Brown feels even worse than he did before. This Christmas play is all wrong, he moans. Lucy tries to make him feel better. Everybody knows Christmas is just a time of year for people to buy stuff, she says. But Charlie Brown disagrees. This is one play that is going to be different. We need something to set the proper mood. We need a Christmas tree. That's it, Lucy exclaims. We need a Christmas tree. A great big shiny aluminum tree. You go get the tree, Charlie Brown. I'll take Linus with me, Charlie Brown says. The rest of you can practice your lines. Lucy is excited about the Christmas tree. Get the biggest aluminum tree you can find, she orders. Maybe painted pink. When Charlie Brown and Linus arrive at the Christmas tree lot, they are surrounded by fake trees. Some are plastic, some are aluminum, some are painted different colors. Some even have polka dots. Linus knocks on one of the aluminum trees. Do they still make wooden Christmas trees? He wonders out loud. Meanwhile, Charlie Brown is starting to feel sad again. None of these trees feel right to him. Then Charlie Brown sees it, a teeny tiny green tree. He smiles. This little tree seems to need a home, he says. Linus hesitates. I don't know, Charlie Brown. This doesn't seem to fit the modern spirit. But Charlie Brown suddenly feels better than he has in days. We'll decorate it, and it will be just right for our play. Besides, I think it needs me. He picks up the tree. Needles tinkle as they fall off the scrawny tree, making it even scrawnier. Charlie Brown is still smiling when he returns to the auditorium. He gently places the tree down on Schroeder's piano. "We're back," he announces. Everyone rushes over to see the tree. They are shocked and disappointed at Charlie Brown's choice. "You were supposed to get a good tree," Lucy declares. "Can't you even tell a good tree from a poor tree?" Everyone agrees. What happens next is worst of all. Everybody starts to laugh at Charlie Brown and the little tree, even Snoopy. Charlie Brown feels sadder than ever. He turns to Linus. "I guess you were right," he says. "I shouldn't have picked this little tree. I really don't know what Christmas is all about." He pauses and looks around. "Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?" he cries. To his surprise, it is Linus who answers. "Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about." He walks to the center of the stage and says, "Lights, please." Somebody dims the lights in the auditorium and puts a single spotlight on Linus. In a clear voice, Linus begins to speak. "And there were shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And the angel of the Lord came upon them and said, 'Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy. For unto you is born this day a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God and saying, Glory to God, peace on earth, goodwill to men.'" Everyone is quiet as Linus finishes. "That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown," he says. Charlie Brown picks up his little tree and steps outside. He looks up at the dark sky full of twinkling stars. He finally feels happy, deep down inside, the way Christmas is supposed to make you feel. "Linus is right," he says to himself. "I'm not going to let everyone else's greed spoil my Christmas. I'll take this little tree home and decorate it, and show everyone it really will work in our play." Charlie Brown passes Snoopy's fully decorated doghouse. Snoopy won first prize. He takes a shiny red ornament off the doghouse and hangs it on the little tree. But the ornament is too heavy, and the little tree topples over. Charlie Brown is horrified. "I've killed it!" he cries. "Everything I touch gets ruined." He walks away sadly, with his head down, leaving the little tree alone. After Charlie Brown leaves, the others find the tree. "I never thought it was such a bad little tree," Linus says. He wraps his blanket around the tree's base. "It's not bad at all. Really. All it needs is a little love." Without saying a word, the other kids begin taking the decorations off of Snoopy's doghouse and putting them on the tree. It doesn't take long for them to transform the little tree into something magical. When Charlie Brown returns a few minutes later, he can scarcely believe his eyes. First, he looks at Snoopy's bare doghouse, then at the beautiful tree. "What's going on here?" he asks. Then he looks at his friends. Their faces are all shining with joy. "Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!" they shout. And before Charlie Brown can say another word, They start to sing Christmas carols. Charlie Brown smiles and starts singing with his friends. He knows it is going to be the best Christmas ever. Clifford's First Christmas by Norman Bridwell, narrated by Shantae Ramos. Back when Clifford was a really tiny puppy, we celebrated his first Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we got out the decorations. I held down a branch so Clifford could hang a candy cane on it. The tree looked beautiful. At last, it was time for bed. I tucked Clifford in. Mom turned out the lights and said goodnight. Clifford couldn't sleep. He went out to investigate. Then somebody dropped in. Santa was about to fill my stocking. What a surprise! Santa told us we had to go to sleep so that he could deliver our presents. In the morning, we found he had left a little gift for Clifford. And there were lots of gifts for the rest of us too. Clifford was just the right size for my electric toy car. I turned on the switch. He wasn't a very good driver. Clifford got other nice toys too, but he liked mine better. He pretended to be a giant dog in my dollhouse. And a tunnel for my miniature train. He played horse for my Thumbelina doll. Imagine a dog big enough to ride. What a silly idea, I thought. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the classic story, retold by Thea Feldman, illustrated by Erwin Madrid, narrated by Shantae Ramos. Way up at the North Pole, there is a special place called Christmastown. Families of reindeer live in cozy caves. Elves work at the factory, making presents for children. In Santa's castle, Mrs. Claus makes sure he eats plenty so that his holiday suit fits just right. Everyone loves living in Christmastown, except for one year when the weather was so bad that Christmas was almost canceled. One spring, Donner, the lead reindeer who helped pull Santa's sleigh each Christmas, became a proud papa. He and his wife named their son Rudolph. Soon after little Rudolph was born, his tiny red nose began to glow. "Great bouncing icebergs!" exclaimed Santa when he saw this. If Rudolph's nose continued to glow, Santa said, he would never make the sleigh team when he grew up. Donner taught Rudolph all the things a young reindeer needed to know, especially to beware of the abominable snow monster. All the while, he hid Rudolph's nose under a cover and hoped it would someday stop glowing. As the months went by, the elves were busy making Christmas toys. All the elves loved their work, except for one. Hermie just didn't have a knack for toy making. Maybe that's because he dreamed of becoming a dentist one day. This made him feel like a misfit among his fellow elves. Rudolph felt like a misfit too. He didn't like the nose cover he had to wear. Without it, his nose glowed as brightly as ever, but Donner was determined to keep that a secret. On the day of the annual reindeer games, Rudolph met Clarice, a pretty young doe. When Clarice said she liked him, Rudolph was so excited that he flew through the air with joy. Flying was exactly what Comet the coach was trying to teach the young reindeer. Everyone was amazed by Rudolph, until his nose cover fell off. All the other reindeer, except for Clarice, laughed at Rudolph and called him names. Comet said, "From now on, we won't let Rudolph join in any reindeer games." Rudolph went off by himself, feeling sad. At the toy factory, Hermie was having trouble too. He skipped elf practice so he could fix Doll's teeth, thinking he might fit in better that way. When the foreman found out, he yelled, "Come to elf practice and learn to wiggle your ears and chuckle warmly and do important stuff like that, or you'll never fit in." But Hermie just couldn't. He ran away instead. Before long, Hermie and Rudolph met and shared their stories. They decided to go off into the world together. "You don't mind my red nose?" asked Rudolph. "Not if you don't mind my being a dentist," replied Hermie. "It's a deal," said Rudolph. On their first day, they heard the abominable snow monster's terrible roar. "He must have seen your nose!" cried Hermie. The two friends tried to stay far ahead of the monster. Soon, they met Yukon Cornelius and his dog sled team. Yukon was looking for gold, but he found Rudolph and Hermie instead. Then Rudolph's glowing nose let the abominable snow monster find them all. Thanks to Yukon's quick thinking, they escaped on an ice floe. The ice floe carried them to the island of Misfit Toys, a place filled with odd toys. The ruler of the island, King Moonracer, said, "A toy is never truly happy until it is loved by a child." Rudolph promised the king that someday he would tell Santa about all these homeless toys. Maybe Santa would include them in his Christmas deliveries to children around the world. Rudolph asked King Moonracer if he and his friends could stay on the island of Misfit Toys. "The island is not for living things," said the king. "It's only for misfit toys." "How do you like that?" said Yukon. "Even among misfits, we're misfits." The king let the friends rest overnight before they moved on. When Hermie and Yukon were asleep, Rudolph slipped away. Knowing that his nose would put them in constant danger with the abominable snow monster, he didn't want to be the cause of any harm to his friends. The abominable snow monster did indeed find Rudolph because of his glowing nose. He chased the young reindeer everywhere. During that time, Rudolph grew up. One day, he realized it was time to go home. Meanwhile, Rudolph's parents and Clarice had been out looking for him ever since he left. It was now 2 days before Christmas Eve, and Santa told Rudolph that without Donner, he'd never be able to get his sleigh off the ground. Rudolph was determined to find his parents and Clarice. As he began to look for them, the storm of all storms hit. Thick snowflakes fell, making it hard to see. Rudolph had an idea where his parents and Clarice were. In the cave of the abominable snow monster. He made his way there despite the storm and found Clarice in the monster's clutches. "Put her down!" Rudolph cried. The abominable snow monster did, and went after Rudolph instead. Yukon and Hermie, who had been searching for their friend, arrived at the cave just in time. Quickly, they lured the monster outside and knocked him out with a big rock. Then, Hermie removed all of the monster's teeth. Finally, Hermie got to be a dentist. When the abominable snow monster woke up, Yukon pushed him back and back and back until the monster, Yukon, and his dogs all slipped over the edge of a cliff. Rudolph and his friends and family were heartbroken when they returned to Christmas Town. When the others heard the entire story, they realized that those who are different are important too. They all apologized to Rudolph and Hermie. The foreman even told Hermie he could open up his own dentist's office. And Santa agreed to find homes for the misfit toys. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Yukon, his dogs, and the abominable snow monster. Even though they had all gone over the cliff, the abominable snow monster was able to bounce, and so they had all landed safely. Now the monster was no longer mean. He even got a job. He placed the star on the top of the Christmas tree. Everyone cheered. The next day was Christmas Eve. But the weather was so bad that Santa could not fly his sleigh safely through it. He reluctantly started to tell everyone that Christmas was going to be canceled for the first time ever. But then he realized that there was a way through the storm after all. "Rudolph," Santa said, "you and that wonderful nose of yours. That nose can cut through the murkiest storm. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?" Rudolph replied, "It will be an honor, sir." The sleigh was loaded, the reindeer got into place, and Santa climbed aboard. Rudolph took the lead, and the sleigh took off. Santa's first stop? The island of misfit toys. Everyone had an extra Merry Christmas that year. And Rudolph went down in history as the greatest reindeer of all time.